let me start by asking you a question. Who here loves going to their job in the morning?
Yes.
Well,
Next to me.
well, that's actually a much higher percentage. If I could do a quick calculation, that's a much higher percentage than what people say in surveys. Actually, most surveys find about 70 to 80% of people are disengaged from their work, and they basically just do their work to get a paycheck so they can survive, and that is the reality. And you can see that every morning when you go on the tube, you can see that. I call it the zombie express. There's not a single person with a smile. They was looking like they're sleepy, or their faces are downturned, and they look like they're dragging themselves into their office. And most of them are. Unfortunately, I've gotten myself out of that, the zombie express. Actually, now I work on my own. I don't work in a company anymore. So let me tell you about a few things. I've worked for companies for over 30 years. Let me tell you a couple of things that I think that could be done to really change the culture in business. So first idea I have is actually to get the idea of flow, which means actually concentrating on your work for an extended period of time. When you're in flow, you get really absorbed in your work, you lose a sense of time. And I think it's something probably everyone has experienced, either in athletics or even at work or in different facets of life. We actually really get absorbed in something, maybe even in music, for example, Nick, that's maybe something that happens as well. So what they've done, studies have shown that for example, if knowledge workers are in flow, their productivity is 3 to 5 times more than ordinary people that are just working their normal distracted state. And one of the biggest problems I see in any job is you come in the morning, the first thing you do is you check your emails for like half an hour, all these crappy emails, most of them which are completely irrelevant. And by the time you've done that for the first half an hour, your motivation is just shot, and basically your ability to concentrate and do work is gone. So the first thing I would suggest is every morning when you get in, maybe you just have a quick little stretch, and then you have 2 hours dedicated, no phones, no emails, where everyone does the most important task of the day. Everyone in the whole company sits and spends 2 hours on the most important task of the day. I think you could probably get more done in those 2 hours than you got in a day or in several days. Because I've seen in some companies, it's just actually quite entertaining. You come in, you have a coffee, do a bit of work, have a mid-morning coffee, then you have lunch, and then mid-afternoon you have your coffee, then you have another coffee. So the amount of work in some of the companies have been, if you're an employee, if you're lucky, you get 2 hours out of them, of 2 hours of distracted work. So I think that's one area in which you can really make a difference. Another area which is actually quite important is in terms of millennials. I don't know, do any of you work with millennials?
I am one.
Or you are one?
Yeah.
Everybody look. There's
I think it might be more than one, but so one of the problems that a lot of employers have now report is that they have a hard time retaining millennial workers. And I understand exactly why, because after working, like I know someone close to me who works for a fintech company, and she's now decided, she's got a good job, she earns a lot of money. She says, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. She says, there's no way in hell I'm going to do this, and I'm going to quit. I'm going to go travel to South America, and then I'm going to find maybe a job which I can do on contract. And I think that's not an atypical issue. I mean, most employers have this issue where they have this corporate culture in which you have doing some objective, some nebulous objective, and has no relation to your personal objective. So I think what's important is, I think companies need to have a wider understanding of their role. It's not just about value to shareholders. It just becomes sort of a buzzword. That's only actually happened in the last 10, 20 years, where value to shareholders is the only purpose of a company. And that's not true at all. In fact, a group of executives from top companies came together recently, and they came out with a statement that says companies have responsibilities to all their stakeholders, their employees, their customers, and even society in general. And so it's not just about making money. Of course you have to make money to stay in business. That's a given. If you don't make money, you're not going to be in business. But you have to have engage with your stakeholders, and particularly employees. And I think the most important thing is to help develop the potential of your employees as one of the main priorities of your training. For example, teaching them public speaking and communication skills, which a lot of people don't have. I've been to many companies and many presentations, and you literally want to just you literally want to just be put out of your misery, basically, after sitting through PowerPoints for like 4 or 5 hours. So they really need to work on developing individuals' potential, and that will help the company in terms of productivity and also in terms of happiness. And the goals of the individual and the company are aligned. And I think that will really make a big difference in retaining people. And the last thing is the hierarchy. When you look at these big companies, you work for these big multinational companies, they have 10 layers of middle management, and then they have the top managers who decide everything. And that's just too slow in this modern world. Things change very, very quickly. And if you have to go all the way to the top and have the decision making percolate through to the employees who are doing the work, it's just far, far too slow. So what we really need is to have a much leaner organization, and these have been proposed in several books. For example, Frederick Laloux has written a book called Reinventing Organizations, and he talks about how organizations can be done with a much leaner structure, basically where the upper management role is just to advise, but the teams generally are the teams that work on particular projects are the ones who decide who to hire and fire. There's no big HR department. They determine their objectives, their profit objectives, their bonuses, all those sort of things determined at a very local level and in a very transparent way. And if that was done, that would actually be much more productive and much more engaging for people. So what I'm suggesting is that there are a lot of things businesses could do to actually engage employees and actually make working fun. I think ultimately, we spend so much time at work. If you're not enjoying yourself at work, that personally for me, I would not work in a place where I don't enjoy myself. So so a few things they could do. First of all, get people into flow, into concentrated work that would improve productivity and happiness. Give the employees skills that they really appreciate, develop their potential, and lastly, change the organization so it's much flatter and more responsive. Thank you.